unfortunately, is contrary or the opposite of messages that we hear sometimes on our pulpits in Nigeria and many parts of Africa. Messages on miraculous wealth.
But you were in power for 8 years with people we consider dead. But we never heard you speak. Why are you speaking now?
All right, welcome to The Way, the Truth, and Life. So, a video of Reverend Esiri Kesiena came up recently where he was asking the question, why now? Talking about the recent message, or if you like, the recent speech by the former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, where he was talking about hard work and integrity as pillars of success. But Reverend Esiri has questioned this statement and his point, saying that why is he speaking now? Why suddenly he has now arose or waking up from his slumber and he's speaking now? That when he was in power, he muted, he didn't say anything. Why now? And because of this statement, a video has popped up of Osinbajo where he was talking about hard work, integrity, and values. And this was when he was in power. You need to watch this video. I will be right back.
That this work-based approach to prosperity, emphasizing hard work, diligence, adding value to resources, building wealth gradually through consistent effort. So the meaning of the power to get wealth, as is contained in Deuteronomy 8 verse 18, is that God gives us the power of creativity and innovation to be productive as we work diligently. This unfortunately is contrary or the opposite of messages that we hear sometimes on our pulpits in Nigeria and many parts of Africa. Messages on miraculous wealth.
For instance, I saw a video recently. I know that Pastor Emmanuel knows that I have the tendency to speak the burdens of the Lord in my heart, so he will not be offended. Listen, I saw a video making the rounds some days ago and people celebrating the video. In this video, a man is speaking about honesty, speaking about integrity, speaking about ethics. Meanwhile, this man had been given the opportunity by God to be the second most powerful man in this nation for 8 years. 8 years. Till today, if you confront him and ask him about his time in power, he will tell you that those were one of the best days of Nigeria. Till today. Till today. Meanwhile, he's now out of power. He's now speaking about honesty, speaking about integrity, speaking about ethics as a Christian in the first place. Let's check your political affiliations. Do they speak about being associated with honest people? Oga, we agree with the things you are saying about Christians being honest and the church modeling the life of Christ. But you were in power for 8 years with people we consider corrupted. But we never heard you speak. Why are you speaking now? Why is it that you have come out of power and suddenly you now know that these things require honesty, require integrity, require this, require that? I'm telling you that most of the time when we send our people to so-called marketplaces, we don't send our best. And the reason we don't send our best is most of the people who are seeking influence are not seeking it in the right context. In the right context. There's no urgency. For instance, if God is calling you to politics, you must realize that even within the political space, if righteousness will not open the door, then you don't want it open. If God is sending you to the sphere of content creation, for instance, you go there not losing your identity so that you can make money. Look at all your Christian content creators. Let me not say all, because I may not know all. Look at the majority of your so-called Christian content creators, who their pastors even bless them in public in church. What is the content that they are creating? Who takes the glory from the content that they are creating? Your so-called Christian content creators who say God is merciful, God is kind, their content is about adultery, their content is about bomb, their content is about all kinds of rubbish, and yet they are what? Christian content creators. I'm trying to say to you that the matter that has created this kind of scenario is that we have lost the sense of the urgency of the gospel.
I will be speaking for a few minutes on the subject values, the difference between success and failure. Values, the difference between success and failure. Let us adopt a very simple definition of what values means. Values are ethical principles by which individuals and communities live, work, and interact. So values include honesty, integrity, trustworthiness, perseverance, hard work, diligence, discipline, patience, respect, etc. As I had mentioned earlier, the pantheon of old boys of BBHS is like a who is who in Nigeria. And His Excellency, the governor of Ogun State, also made that point. That when you read the list of old boys of BBHS, it's like who is who in politics, in the professions, in civil society, in commerce and industry. But in order to establish the point that I would like to make today on this question of values, what makes the difference between success and failure is values, I'd like to refer to 4 old boys of BBHS, 4 old boys of BBHS, who have held high positions in the public service of Nigeria. And I'm only going to talk about 4 in the public service, not businessmen, not academia, just 4 in the public service. And I'll explain why I want to talk about those 4 in particular. But let me repeat the point, that it is values that determine the success or failure of individuals or societies. It is values, the values of hard work, discipline, integrity, trustworthiness, respect, patience, delay of gratification. These are the values that determine the success or significance that individuals or societies attain. I'll begin with the first of these 4 that I'll mention. Chief Obafemi Awolowo, GCFR, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, of the 1928 set of BBHS, the first premier of the then Western region. The first premier of the Western region, who was described, as many of us know, in death by Chief Emeka Odumegwu Ojukwu as the best president Nigeria never had. Pioneer of free education in Nigeria, investing over 41% of the Western region's budget on education alone. He built the first television in Africa, but not just in Africa. When Obafemi Awolowo built the first television station in the Western region, Canada did not have, Netherlands did not have, Belgium did not have. They did not have televisions at the time. So it was not just the first in Africa, it was the first in many parts of Europe and Asia. The tallest building at some point in time in Nigeria, he built the tallest building in Ibadan at the time, the Cocoa House. That was at some point the tallest building, 26 stories. Farm settlements, road infrastructure, etc. He fought for true democracy, and he clashed with the then national government, and he rejected any moves to compromise his position on behalf of the Western region of Nigeria. He was unfairly jailed, but he remained resolute and did not concede his position until he was freed by the government then of General Yakubu Gowon. We'll leave Chief Obafemi Awolowo there. The next is Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, GCFR, of the 1957 set of BBHS, a military president who set a standard of honor when he handed over power according to the promise made by his administration to an elected civilian government. And then he went on to become an elected president for 2 consecutive terms. Of course, many of us know that Obasanjo also ended up in prison, unfairly and unjustly ended up in prison. But while in prison, he refused to compromise his position. He remained resolute until he was freed by a subsequent government. The third is Chief M.K.O. Abiola, GCFR, of the 1956 set. His GCFR, as you know, was awarded posthumously. He won the presidential elections in 1993, and some say that was one of the freest, fairest elections in the history of our country. The then military government annulled the election, and they expected him to surrender his mandate. He refused, and in an act of tremendous courage, because he had to face the military regime at the time, he not only declared himself president, he willingly went to jail. And while in jail, he refused to renounce his mandate until he died. I mention only these 3 men for now, and I'm going to mention one more, because they stood resolutely for principles. Even in the face of great temptation to compromise, they made personal sacrifices. They suffered for their beliefs. They possessed something that set them apart from others. They seem to have imbibed something that made them so resolute, even in the face of fearful and daunting challenges. They remained adamant in the face of the temptation to compromise. They were extraordinary in that sense. Standing by one's belief and principles, even if it means pain or punishment, is a very special trait indeed. I'll spend a bit more time on the 4th example. And this example, this 4th person, is one, and the reason why I'm going to spend a bit of time on him is because he's one that I worked directly with. I worked with him for 5 years. He is His Excellency Prince Bola Ajibola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Knight of the British Empire, of the 1955 set, of the Baptist Boys High School. He was one time president of the NBA, was one time Attorney General and Minister of Justice of the Federation. He served as a judge of the International Court of Justice or the World Court, and was also Nigeria's ambassador to the United Kingdom. I was 30 years old, when I was appointed special advisor to Prince Bola Ajibola, then Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice. This was my first experience in public service. And in hindsight, it was my best introduction to public service. George Ajibola was a man who had been tremendously successful as a lawyer and arbitrator. And of course, as I said, ended up being the NBA president. But let me mention 3 defining events that I experienced and witnessed while working with him as his advisor. The first was a situation where a foreign contractor who had won a very lucrative contract from the federal government went to give his son, Prince Ajibola's son, who was in university in England at the time. This contractor went to give him a car, a golf car, brand new car. Prince Ajibola's son contacted his father that this person had sent a car to him. And I can never forget how angry he was. He was so angry that I had to calm him down physically. I had to make him sit down physically because he was so angry. Not only was the gift returned, the contractor, the man, was reported to his government, to the government of his country. And I remember that his government had to make a special apology to our own government and to Prince Bola Ajibola. I remember that the man himself came to the ministry to apologize to the Attorney General for offering a bribe to him. The second incident was a commercial aircraft that was arrested in Nigeria for carrying drugs. The Office of the Attorney General, of course, was responsible for ensuring the arrest. A very successful lawyer, whose name I must not mention, claimed that he was acting as an intermediary for some interests who were, somewhat connected to the aircraft. And they came to the Attorney General, Prince Bola Ajibola, to offer him a large sum of money in foreign exchange. When I recall how Prince Bola Ajibola shouted at that senior lawyer and ordered him out of his office, I still remember the shame and fear on the face of the man in later years. Now, the truth of the matter is that those two incidents were just two incidents that I mentioned, which showed that here was a man who believed that public service was public service, and that bribes of any kind, whether it was bribe or thank you, was completely unacceptable. And he set that very high standard, even then. In later years, Bola Ajibola decided that his life work will be the establishment of a university. He sold every property that he had in Lagos at the time and moved his home to Abeokuta here. He established the Crescent University with all the resources he had. And I know because he's somebody who confides in me a great deal. And today, he runs that university, subsidizes most of the students because, as you know, a university is not necessarily a lucrative business. And he himself said, when I asked him, why are you selling everything you have to establish a university? He said, at the end of the day, wealth means nothing if it doesn't positively impact the life of others.
Welcome back. Now you have heard from both men of God. This video, the essence of this is to, expose the truth to us. The truth is that the Osinbajo have always known, by the grace of God, have been under his ministration. Is a diehard advocate of hard work and diligence. That is Osinbajo for you. Even when he was in government, that's what he always preaches. Before he went to government, while he was in government, he always is an advocate of hard work. God will help us in Jesus' name. So it is a lesson for pastors. Let's verify our facts. Let's find out about people. Let's get to know people very well before we make statements. Please subscribe to our channel for more updates, and like, share, and God will bless you. Till we meet again, remain blessed in Jesus' name.